Well, I'll tell you, I found this in the discount bin at GameStop, and
Mhm.
I just thought, wow, this is a cute game. It's cartoony, it seems interesting. Maybe it's a puzzle game. So I bring it home and I'm playing it alone at night in the basement. And a guy explodes and
Yeah.
it gets really real really fast.
Mhm.
And the game has this awareness of the player that just sent a chill down my spine. And I've been looking around. I was 16 or 17,
Mhm.
just thinking, what does this game know about me? Did it plan this?
That's pretty true, I think, for a lot of people who experience this. So let let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle books, movies, comics, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read or play for today's case, though you will also be doing a lot of reading, to be fair, with this game. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens. Now, just a quick reminder, this is the final episode of our Meta March theme, where we're going through and we're examining stories that do something unique with its own medium and kind of push the boundaries of what we think we can expect. So far, we've talked about Bandersnatch from Netflix and a book called S, which is a murder mystery novel written inside another book. And today we're going to be wrapping up by talking about one of my favorite games, 999. But I can't talk about this alone because it's very dense. There's a lot to break into it. So I've invited back my very good friend and fellow 999, what's the best word? Expert, explorer, conspiracy theorist, Alyssa Kestrel. So,
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
yeah, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me to talk about truly a game that requires a lot of thought. So that asks
Really
you.
investigation.
Mhm.
Notes, so many notes.
Actually, yes. And you do need to be taking notes and referencing your notes so that you even know like what is going on.
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, you'll never get out.
It's true. So, Alyssa, you've come on the show before. Is there anything that you
Mhm.
would like to say to introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself?
Uh, sure. My name is Alyssa Kestrel. I love D&D and stories and video games, and so I
Mhm.
guess I've played over 10,000 hours of video games, so yeah, I'm an expert. I'm an
Yeah.
expert in video games. I'm going to say
Yeah. Own it loud and proud. That's it. I do not ever want to know how many hours I've played of video games. Like,
it.
no,
Yeah.
no one ever tell me. But yeah, so today we're tackling a game that is probably not very well known. This game is called 999, and it was published in 2009 by developer Chunsoft. And this is the first in a series called the Nonary games. Well, Alyssa, I guess, would you like to describe kind of like what these games are about? Like, what's their vibe?
Yeah, absolutely. I've only played the first two. I know there's a trilogy, but
Mm-hmm.
as far as 999, this is kind of like an escape room style, almost like Saw, in that
Mm-hmm.
it's a bunch of people are wake up in this room after being knocked out with this soporific gas, and
Oh, yeah.
they find each other in this crazy situation. They're like, how do we get out? And you play as one of these characters, just kind of trying to do an ultimate escape room. So it's a lot like the trope of games where you die if you fail. Yeah, so
That's
you
true.
better take notes, everyone.
Did God take notes?
Serious
Cannot.
business.
I
Yeah,
can't.
but anyway, the cool thing too is that as the story progresses, you just start pulling at the threads and unraveling this big, complicated, interesting story that, for me, it scratches the itch of this kind of like pseudoscientific wonderment that a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people have. A lot of the things that it talks about are things that people often wonder about, like, collective unconsciousness and telepathy and that kind of thing. It's crazy. It goes a direction you would not expect it to go. It's really cool.
Definitely. And so, like, I think the easiest way that we could talk about this type of game is that it is, in fact, an escape room game. That's the mechanic that you're doing. It's an escape room, and it's a visual novel. That means that you read the characters talking back and forth like a novel. And so you're reading a lot of the information on the screen. And then when you're playing the game, you are doing digital escape rooms. However, the whole thing is kind of a larger mystery. It's really, when we were talking about this before the show, I said it's really kind of like a Russian doll. It is meta, and then also this other thing that we're searching for. So, Alyssa, your first playthrough through this game, what was that like? And like, what happened? So we can kind of get an idea for the story.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, yeah. I remember you start out as the main character's name is Junpei, and he is just kind of a guy. And you wake up, everybody is with you. Oh, so you have 8 people with you. There's 9 people total.
Yeah.
And everyone has these watches on that have numbers on them, 1 through 9. And they're told, I can't remember how they're told. Is it a note? Is it a speaker?
There's like a speaker. So like Saw is a really apt comparison. Someone comes on a speaker on the boat that they were all trapped on.
Jigsaw tells everyone they have a bomb in their stomach, and they have to solve puzzles and proceed through the rooms, and they're in this
it's a cruise ship.
A big. Oh yeah, it's Titanic. It's Titanic.
Yeah, it's a model. It's a 2-scale model of the Titanic.
Yes, and they have to proceed through these rooms, these puzzle rooms, and walk through these doors. And they can only walk through the doors in number combinations. Like there's some math aspect of it where they have to add the numbers together on their watches, and they can only go. Do you remember what the number?
Yeah. So Jigsaw, who this time is called Zero. It's not actually related to Saw, but Zero, the person running the game, tells them that they have 9 hours to escape this boat because it is sinking. In 9 hours, the whole ship will sink, and so they will die. Everything has been blocked off. But there are these 9 doors that they can go through, and that's where the escape room aspect comes into. There is a little mechanism to make sure that everybody can't go through the same door. And so the game has its own little like mathematics system thing that it's invented called digital root, which might actually be a real thing. I don't know. And I'm not a math person, so someone else can write in to tell us. But what it basically means is, like Alyssa said, you have to add up the numbers and do a little bit of a fancy math thing. But functionally, what it does is it makes sure that only like 2 to 5 people can go through each door. And what that does for the player is it means that you will never be able to explore every room in one playthrough. So in order to know what is inside every room and get every single clue, you will functionally have to play this game several times over and make entirely different choices, or you would never get the information. And then if you break those rules, like if you break Zero's rules, then there's a bomb in their stomach and they will explode.
Yeah, sounds fun, right? Let's do it.
It is. So what happened on your playthrough? Do you remember the very first time that you played through this?
Oh, absolutely. I remember the first time I played through this. Like I said, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. And so I was taken aback. I did the entire first playthrough in one night downstairs in my room. And I got an ending where you get killed. You end up just getting killed.
What
and
a bummer.
I did not expect that to happen. I didn't know that this was a game that intends for you to replay it. And so that came so out of the blue for me. I kind of expected to have that that main character untouchable
plot armor
aspect that a lot of exactly. I thought I had plot armor, and then I got murdered, and I was like, what the heck? So that really it threw me. That's what when I said I had that chill go up my spine and I had to go upstairs and
that
find
was
my
the story
parents.
From this playthrough.
Yeah, it's because I did not expect to be killed, and I couldn't believe that this game would do that to me. And because I hadn't solved the mystery, I had just started learning a little bit of clues, a few clues here and there, and then I realized, I think it was, I went through the second set of doors, and I realized that, I needed to know something that happened in the first set of doors, but I went through the other one. So, like you said, you have to replay it to get the other information. That's what stood out to me the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I had a similar time when I first played through this one, where I thought that I was going to win the very first time that I played through this, because I got to the final room. I kept myself and my friend alive somehow. I had what I thought were all the clues, and then at the very end, I got to like the final door that you need to escape. And there was a puzzle that I had absolutely no context for. And I didn't know that it was coming. I knew nothing about it. I was kind of trying to put it together, and the character was like looking at it, and it was like I needed a code. And I was putting in like all the numbers I could think of. I was using everything I'd learned up to that point. And it let me try that, I think, 2 or 3 times before the character was like, I feel like it stopped me. The game stopped me. It was like, I feel like I missed it. What's going on? Like, I need some other information, but I don't have time for it. And then the boat sank, and it was a game over, and I lost. And I was so offended and shocked. And it was only after that I realized that I had to play through it again, because it comes up. It does not tell you beforehand, right? So it doesn't tell you beforehand. That was only after you play through it does it say, like, this was the blah, blah, blah ending. You've unlocked blank out of blank. But you don't have the information you need to escape. And so you had to go back and do it again. And the reason I wanted to do this is because it's true that there are a lot of games that kind of invite you to replay them to get everything. But this one I just think did it in such a unique way, in that you have no awareness that this is going on. It kind of hoodwinks you. And then kind of, I guess, into the philosophy. I guess this gets into like the way in which I find it to be unique as a game, and the way I kind of find it to be boundary pushing as a game is a little bit in the philosophy of the game itself. So going back to what you said, like it talks about this idea of a shared consciousness, and the characters in the game kind of bring this up as like something that they don't believe in. And they're like, yeah, like whatever, this is a philosophy, but it's not real. Ha ha ha. But you, the player, kind of have to take on the role of a shared consciousness between these characters. And you kind of represent the shared knowledge of previous playthroughs, because you can use that information as you go on and make decisions. And so you take on the role of, like I said, that shared consciousness of this information shared between characters, between lives they've never lived. But the game itself is written so that those characters are aware of when you do that. So if you use information that you haven't learned in this playthrough, every character will respond to it, and in a way where they're confused or upset because they don't know where the information is coming from.
Yeah, so they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, or asking like, how did you know that? That doesn't make sense. Like, you can reveal like a secret you know about this place, or use a code that you found in another playthrough, and everyone will immediately become confused and suspicious, including the character you're playing as. Like,
yeah, he's like, what did I just do?
Yeah, he's very self-aware in terms of like, I don't know why I know this.
Yeah, that part was really interesting. It did that replayability and player interaction in a way that was really different from Majora's Mask, and it came out before Undertale. But yeah, I love that.
It really feels like every time that you're making a choice together, and kind of like every choice that you make has a huge impact. And it really creates that, I think you said, like that level of like fear or wondering of like, does the game actually know what you're doing? Because it really feels like rather than testing those players, it is testing you. Like making you question, like, is shared consciousness kind of a real thing? What about telepathy? What about all these like pseudosciences?
Yep. How do you know that what you know is real? Yeah. Well, the answer is you don't.
And I don't like that. Welcome to the game. But anyway, I'll refocus us. So since we were talking about meta. Let's use our examples from Metatextuality from earlier this month. So, Alyssa, I'm going to give you 5 ways in which something, a story specifically, can be especially metatextual. And I would like you to say, based on your experience, how do you think 999 is especially metatextual? And maybe give us an example.
Yeah.
So 5 ways, according to Longwood University, Dr. Chris Mickey, which were 1.
Thank you, doctor.
Yes. Being self-referential. 2, breaking the fourth wall. 3, blurring the lines between the fictional world and the real world. 4, when a narrator does too much or too little of what they are supposed to do. And 5, a text reminding you of the material fact that it is a text. In this case, the game reminding you of the fact that it's just a game.
Okay. Can you read me the third one after fourth wall?
Blurring the lines between the fictional world and the real world.
Oh, yeah, that one. Absolutely. So this game, first of all, it's based on a real historical event, and it takes place inside of the model of the Titanic. So it's already pulling from real world events and activities. And as I was playing through the game, I found myself wondering if this was someone's actual conspiracy theory that they made into a game. I couldn't tell always what was a real historical piece and what was made up for the game. And in that way, it blurred. It also breaks the fourth wall because it utilizes this interaction with the character. But yeah, after I played that game, I really started looking up like research papers about about collective unconscious and telepathy and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it blurred reality in the game.
Yeah, it made you question your reality, I guess, in a way that is like very hard to do, especially like if you don't know what we're talking about, take a look at what the game looks like. It doesn't look realistic necessarily. So I think that's another layer of like when we're talking about it, it asks you these big questions. It doesn't look realistic, so it's not like looking at it and wondering if it could be real. It's the way that they tell that story that kind of makes you really kind of go down that rabbit hole. Another way that it blurs reality, while it doesn't address you directly, it is speaking to you. Like it says players and it is in universe. It's diegetic, so it's talking to the people in the story. But it's also talking to the person behind the screen. And it is like written referring to the knowledge that not the in-game players will have, but explicitly that like the person behind the screen will have.
Yeah. Throughout the game, it seems hyper aware of the player's presence, and some lines of dialogue seem directed at the player, even if they're not.
And that's what it wants to do. It's like purposely and with evil glee making you question.
I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time on the Wikipedia after this game trying to find ancient civilizations and secret pharmaceutical companies and all this kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah. So this is kind of the end of Meta March. This whole time we've been looking for a word to describe these kind of stories. So if you were to try and come up with a word to describe like this kind of game, or this kind of storytelling that happens in the game, but what would that be?
Oh, wow. I would say interactive, because it was interactive in a way that was very unexpected to me. And not just because I didn't know anything about the game. I think even if I knew it was a visual novel, it still would have surprised me with that.
Well, even for a visual novel, like those are actually not very interactive. I guess in that way as well, maybe it's kind of setting you up to be shocked.
Right. This one is expecting some investigation skills.
Absolutely. Can I ask you a question? Because I would like to, I want to interrogate that word just a little bit. And then I promise I'll wrap it up. But do you think that this is like more interactive than other games? Because I feel like interactive is a word that you could use to describe any kind of game.
I'd say it's interactive. All video games are interactive, but this is the first video game that I played that felt like it was a two-way street. Like the game was interacting with me too.
And because it does feel like the game, like something about the game knows you. Despite like most games putting you in the head of another character, this game is instead trying to get into your head. Yeah. Perhaps. I would really encourage you guys to go out there and play it. It is a special experience.
I say go play it. Just be prepared to question everything you know, and maybe you don't play it alone like I did.
Yeah, it's fun. Get two brains involved. So, well, Alyssa, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on here and talking with me about this game. I really appreciate it. I like getting your insight.
I will always talk about video games with you.
Thank you, everyone out there, for joining us on Radio Taiwan International. This has been Tales of Our Time, and I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, with my guest, Alyssa Kestrel. And
thank you.
Yeah, a complex story. I hope that you all enjoyed learning more about 999. And I hope that you enjoyed our little romp through Meta March. Do check out the stories we talked about this time. We'll be back next week with a regular episode, kind of taking a break from the theme and getting back to those regular episodes talking about just important stories that matter to us. And we'll see you next time.